Let's get some more thoughts. Let's go live to Gearoid Colmain. He's journalist and author joining us on the line now. Hi there, Gearoid. MI5 officials had warned that jihadists were preparing to launch a series of attacks on Europe. Is there any way the citizens could have been better protected, or is this just something that you couldn't have stopped?
Well, there are many ways to protect citizens. One is to have responsible foreign policy. We have reports from the French press that the Kouachi brothers trained in Syria. We know from the French Prime Minister, for example, Manuel Valls, he has said that they had military training. That's a quote, military training. Now, so the first question we need to ask is this: what countries have been supplying military training to terrorists? And I'd like to quote here from Israeli intelligence-linked journal called Debka File, who published a report on the 14th of April 2011 during the NATO campaign in Libya. And here's what they say. Also discussed in Ankara and Brussels, our sources report, is a campaign to enlist thousands of Muslim volunteers in Middle East countries and the Muslim world to fight alongside the Syrian rebels. Alongside the Syrian rebels. The Turkish army would house these volunteers, train them and secure their passage into Syria. Now the French people are paying the price for this lunatic foreign policy, this lunatic neoconservative foreign policy of the French government. And everybody is going to pay the price, because we are now seeing the institution of a police state. They are talking about putting police in supermarkets, inside shops. We're going to have police all over the street, military on the street, everybody's under suspicion. This is absolutely crazy. But I would reiterate, those who are responsible are the people who have been recruiting, funding and training terrorists. And we know from official sources that the countries involved in that, and we've been saying it for a long time, are France, Britain and the United States and their allies. And that needs to be known here. Second point, we also know from official sources that the CIA and NATO intelligence have conducted terrorist operations against civilians in Europe since the Second World War. The most famous operation was called Operation Gladio. And from that, I would like to quote another source, which is a former operative of Operation Gladio.
But what's the relevance of that to what you're talking? Yeah, but Gearoid, what's the relevance of what you're saying now to what's happening?
The people, women and children. Just a second.
Okay.
The relevance is this. Al-Qaeda and Islamic terrorism is an invention of Western intelligence. We know that for a fact. Secondly, Al-Qaeda's function and the function of Islamic terrorism is to be used as foreign mercenaries against states that refuse to submit to NATO hegemony. Secondly, they are used as a form of terror tool against Western populations in order to divide them. So what we see in Paris, for example, are teeming working class in the suburbs, composed mostly of immigrants, and many Algerians, many Africans and so on. And this Islamic terrorism is being used to divide communities. It is the only way to institute policing in an austerity state. And that's what we are seeing, an austerity state where the old social functions of the state are being placed by penal functions.
You're not for a moment saying that it's NATO and the Western nations that have promoted what's happening here today.
Yes. Yes, of course. We've been saying this for a long time. If you look at the rebels in Syria and the rebels in Libya, these people were trained by Western intelligence. That's a fact. Now who's attacking Western civilians? The same rebels. We know we already know that these rebels were trained in Syria. Now they're saying Yemen. The story is changing all the time. One of the suspects who was arrested, Kouachi, this is according to France Inter. France Inter reported that when he was arrested, because he's already been arrested for terrorism, he thanked the justice for arresting him. That's significant, because a lot of these so-called terrorists are patsies. These are young Muslims who get caught up in these. They get recruited by local mosques and so on that are funded by Mossad and the CIA and the DGSU.
And this has nothing to do with religion, is it? This has nothing to do with religion, no?
That's probably why he thanked the justice for arresting him. Absolutely nothing. This has nothing to do with religion. This is a complete farce to talk about. The French media are talking about Islam all the time. These people are not Muslims. This has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. This is to do with this Wahhabi death cult promoted by the allies of the West, Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Their best friends are promoting this satanic death cult. And that's what it's about. It has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. Incidentally, there has been a novel published recently by Michel Houellebecq in France, and it has actually had a lot of media coverage. It's called Soumission, Submission, which is the translation for Islam. The problem with these terrorist campaigns is that they aim to make the people submit to state power, make the people submit to this false and phony narrative of the war on terrorism. It's about time people stop being sheep and woke up and investigated it.
Gearoid, thank you for your thoughts. A lot of people might find that controversial. Thank you for your thoughts nonetheless. Gearoid Colmain, journalist and author, live on RT International now. All right.